Unmute when you start.
Throughout history, technology has impacted greatly. With the development of the car came suburbs, with the development of flight came travel, and recently the advances in technology have created a global and, for the most part, inclusive community. It has enabled people to reach out, collaborate, and most importantly, create and learn. And in many ways, the internet is one of the final frontiers. An area of exploration beyond the confines of society, and with that comes the opportunity to foster and cultivate a holistic education for all. I am Alexandria McKeown. I am from Canada, where I received my several degrees in history, English, dance, and education, and I focused in special education. For the past 3 years, I have taught at Taylor's College, Canadian Pre-University, and I'm the head of English in the art department. Currently, I teach drama and English, but I've also taught in Australia and Canada, and I've taught social sciences in addition. You may be wondering why I decided to focus on special education. When I was a teacher in Teachers College in Canada, I had the opportunity to work with a student with Asperger's, which is a form of autism. She was part of the open dance class for grade 10 and 11 students. This might seem like an odd choice for a student with Asperger's, as performance and presentation is an essential component. If you don't already know, those with Asperger's often experience intense bouts of anxiety, especially during social situations. This one student often found it difficult to join discussions in class and share her thoughts and ideas. An accommodation provided in our IEP was to allow her to face the wall when doing presentations. However, after 5 months of dance, which involved various types of student-centered learning and assessment, her confidence grew. By the end of the term, she voluntarily performed in the front row of a dance at a school recital. Her teachers from her other courses articulated how well she was developing and that she was confident and participated more in class. She no longer required to face the wall. This experience inspired me to continue learning techniques and tools to support various learners, providing them with the resources they need to succeed, which is where my interest in technology was founded. The more I investigate, the more evidence I find that technology and the internet can provide an environment that is beneficial for each and every student, and that opportunity for all students to engage in their learning. This presentation intends to address inclusive education in Malaysia, techniques to support all learners, particularly through the use of technology, and how we can use Google to support each and every student. We will be looking at what is inclusive education, teaching and universal design for learning, and Google for all. A rose can be purple, a tree trunk can be white, and leaves, they can be red. There is not a one-size-fits-all education system. Just like roses aren't only red, tree trunks aren't always brown, and leaves aren't always green. So to start off, let's discuss what inclusive education means to me. Inclusive education is providing each and every student the opportunity to learn, regardless of their individual needs. It is about creating an open and holistic environment that is accepting and nurturing, reaching each and every student and providing them with an optimal learning environment. The focus is equity and success, providing numerous opportunities for students to learn. So in this image, do you see real equal opportunity? Equal opportunity is not uniform opportunity. To create an equitable education, we need to accept that there are a wide range of learners that need differentiated instruction with an inclusive environment. This may mean providing accommodations and in some cases modifications to allow all students equal opportunity to learn the material. For example, a student needs glasses and accommodation to read the board. Are you really going to not let them use them? Similarly, if a student learning a new language needs a dictionary to help her write an essay, you are going to give her this opportunity so she can demonstrate her knowledge. Unfortunately, many students feel like the fish in this picture, lost, helpless, because we often assign unrealistic and standardized expectations on a task. We all have different abilities and strengths that make us unique, and inclusive education focuses on how to use these to help build stronger communities and better opportunities for all students. JFK once said, "All of us do not have equal talent, but all of us should have equal opportunity to develop our talents." The notion that all students should have an equal right to education has been around for a while, although it's not always been implemented or practiced. It is our responsibility as teachers to ensure that each student receives the education they deserve, granting them the freedom to explore their abilities and pursue their goals. One of the best ways we can do this is through our continuous learning and development as a teacher, providing us with tools and techniques to cultivate classrooms that promote individualized and differentiated learning, and most importantly, respect. Education shouldn't be a privilege. It should be a right. UN Special Rapporteur for Persons with Disabilities, Mr. Bengt Lindqvist, said in 1994 that all children and young people of the world, with their individual strengths and weaknesses, with their hopes and expectations, have the right to education. He goes on to say that it is not our education systems that have a right to certain types of students. Rather, it is the school system of the country that must be adjusted to meet the needs of all children. This is especially true for the students in the primary and secondary levels, where they are impressionable and, most important, learning often occurs. I often wonder if the Malaysian education system is meeting the needs of our students. So how do you learn? Can you identify with any of these types of learners on the right? What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? And what do you need to help you succeed? What are your individual needs? We all learn differently. And like us, so do our students. We should enable students the opportunity to learn using the individual styles, focusing on their strengths and interests. Myself, I learned through teaching, especially maths and sciences. I remember in year 9, my teacher embraced this, and I did well in class as our learning environment was open and differentiated. However, when I was in grade 10 mathematics, my teacher became angry with me because I was helping a peer to understand a new formula, and the instructor was concerned that I would teach the material incorrectly. And as a result, I stopped helping, which had a detrimental impact on my performance in maths. In year 9, I had 97%, and by the end of year 10, marks was in the 70s, and I began to dislike math. Most teachers I speak with have similar experiences. When have you felt that a traditional model of teaching affected your performance or learning? It is important to recognize that our students may have different strengths and weaknesses, that our learning style is different from our own, and that it is our responsibility to ensure that all student learners are receiving the knowledge in the format that they need. So some facts about learning and students with special needs in Malaysia. In 1989, Malaysia participated in the United Nations Convention on the Rights of Child, which focused on equality of opportunity and the right to education. In 2001, the Committee on the Rights of Child stated that the education to which every child has a right is one designed to provide the child with the life skills to strengthen the child's capacity to enjoy a full range of human rights and to promote a culture which is infused by human right values. In 2012, 445,000 Malaysians registered with disabilities out of a 29.3 million population. That year, 38% of those registered were children. Regardless of these numbers, during my time teaching in Malaysia, I have noticed most people try to hide their individual learning needs. So they fit in to that stereotypical mold of a student, what we conceive is the norm. Unfortunately, that means these students aren't getting the necessary supports they need, which in turn may hinder their success. As teachers, it is our responsibility to ensure that each and every student receives the opportunities necessary for them to learn, regardless of their needs. We should be embracing students and supporting their desire to learn. To do this, we need to provide accommodations, multiple means of representation, application, and engagement that supports all learners. This brings me to the next objective of this presentation, the universal design for learning. This was first conceived in the world of architecture, where they decided that, hey, using a ramp is not just great for people in wheelchairs, but it can also help people who have babies and are pushing a pram, or people who might have an injury and need to use crutches. So they said, we can use this and we will accommodate all people. And within the education world, they said, hey, we can also use this in the learning world. We can accommodate all learners. That if we provide one thing for one student, that will actually help other students as well. So universal design for learning provides flexibility in the ways information is presented, in the ways that students respond or demonstrate their knowledge, and in the ways that they engage. In fact, it reduces the barriers in instruction and provides appropriate accommodation, supports, and challenges, and maintains high achievement expectations for all students, including students with disabilities and students who are limited English proficient. In UNICEF's brief report, Inclusive Education Malaysia, they say all students should have the opportunity to receive individualized services and approaches to learning. This is essential to UDL, and it is all about providing students to use their personal strengths to succeed. This may seem a little difficult at first or a lot of work. However, it actually is quite simple, and it saves you time in the long run. So to begin with, we'll look at multiple means of representation and what does that mean? Multiple means of representation is all about the what of UDL, right? It's after teaching pre-university in Malaysia for several years, I realized it was the most important to student learning. Each student comes from different schools, different countries, and has various foundations. All the students entered the class with different understanding and knowledge. And by creating multiple means of representation, by using videos, transcripts, articles, images, presentations, I am able to reach and engage all my students, regardless of their English proficiency or individual learning needs. I'm a major fan of using videos and flipped classrooms because it enables students to revisit their learning as much as is required. As a result, the focus shifts to the application of their knowledge, which is where students really start to understand and blossom. Multiple means of action expression actually refers to the how we learn. There's not just one vehicle that we can learn in. We can drive the Benz, or we can drive the Ferrari, or we can drive the Proton. For example, learning about Marxism, you may have students write a rap, a debate, create a poem, a mind map that depicts the knowledge learned in class. By giving choice of how they apply their knowledge in a creative task, not only does it reach all students, but it empowers them. The learning becomes differentiated and students become more engaged in their learning. Which then brings us to the why part of learning. Multiple means of engagement is how and what. It is why we learn through the how and the what. It generates and sustains motivation. By creating a learning framework where students can confidently use their strengths to demonstrate their capabilities, we provide them with the desire to continue to learn. And then they want to learn. They're motivated to learn. So fair is not always equal. I really like this little picture. It compares doctoring to teaching. You have students, or not students, in this case kids, complaining about their stomach hurt. They have a broken arm, and the doctor says, oh, we'll just give them all cough syrup. But only one kid is actually getting what they need. And as they point out, it's not fair. And if we apply this to the world of teaching, it's the same thing in the classroom. Each individual students have their own needs. And if they feel confident enough and they can request it, then we can accommodate it. And we can provide them with the opportunity to express themselves and the opportunity to learn and to grow and to develop and, most importantly, succeed. So I think better when my hands are busy. Fidget toys and tactile activities are recommended. Or I can't grip a pen or a pencil. Modified writing utensils, writing on a computer instead. I can't talk about what I know better than I can write. Creating a video instead of composing a paper. So let's make education fair. Most importantly, knowledge is created when students are actively engaged. when they are participating in their learning. Embodying learning is an important part of the differentiated learning. It provides all students the opportunity to excel. This can be done through many different ways, such as cross-curricular learning, incorporating the arts, incorporating technology. Technology enables teachers to provide students with multiple means of representation, expression, and action, and of course, engagement. For example, closed captioning, though created for the deaf, can be used by an English language learner to watch a film and support their learning of a new language. At the heart of UDL, this is the idea that an accommodation for one person can only benefit the entire class. So why are we limiting students' opportunity to learn? Technology can consist all students learn, just like Google can. So since living in Malaysia, I've had the opportunity to work with some amazing students with visible and non-visible learning needs, which include but are not limited to dyslexia, English language learners, lack of foundation, test anxiety, depression, giftedness, and other exceptionalities. While working with these students, I've incorporated Google Drive to assist learning and acquisition of information. Collaboration. The chat function enables me to work with students while they are learning. If students are not comfortable asking questions verbally, they have the option to pose these questions in a more private format. For some students, this provides a great transition to learning through collaboration if they are used to a more traditional and antiquated model of learning. If students struggle at collaborating because they live in other parts of the city, Drive's sharing function facilitates students working together in alternative environments, which is part of the blended learning model. The ability to share in Google Drive is optimal if you want to incorporate a blended learning module in your teaching practices. Additionally, studies have shown that through online sharing and using blended models, students receive valuable student-teacher conferencing and feedback that is normally difficult to give in a traditional classroom. Peer editing is also possible because of share option of that's provided in Google Docs, slides, sheets, and so on and so forth. Every time my students have an essay due, we go to the computer lab where students can provide feedback directly to their peers through the comment function. It also lets me reach every student because I can also provide quick, detailed, and specific feedback to my students, which then helps them succeed in the future. Furthermore, using Google Docs supports and accommodates students who struggle with spelling through its spell check function, and the more they type and use the support, the more they develop their ability to spell and increase their vocabulary. Students can also select and define words, which provides a definition and list of synonyms, which is really helpful for ELL students. Feedback. In addition to providing students feedback on their assignments through the comment function, you can also get students to provide you feedback anonymously through the forums. By having your students provide you feedback, letting them know what they need, letting them know what they dislike or they like about the class, you can create a class that's geared towards their needs. Sometimes students don't feel comfortable broaching a subject to you in person about what they need. And by using forums, it allows them to give you feedback directly without feeling a little insecure. Apps. Students and teachers can use various great apps that made for Drive, such as Fluency Tutor, that give students additional support. You can also use Google Classrooms to create an online learning environment that is linked directly with Google. Google Classroom is great because it avoids the distractions that you might find if you're using a social app, such as Facebook. And shared folders. So I had a student who was very introverted. She was shy, sensitive, and unresponsive in class. So we had her complete all her tasks in Google Docs. Through Google Docs, I was able to communicate with her through the chat function and comments. And by doing this, she felt supported and able to share her ideas. Her insecurity and anxiety made it difficult for her to share in class. So in order to accommodate this, she would create her presentations using Google Slides, and she wrote down a transcript of what she would say word for word in the presentator notes. So interesting, at my school, student work is 70% of their final grade. It's a pretty big portion, and only 30% is given to exams. So if students don't submit their work, unfortunately, they will fail. A great way to accommodate students who are perfectionists or suffer from anxiety over assignments is if you create a shared folder where students can complete and submit all work. It eliminates this pressure. This way, students will receive marks for their assignments even if they're not completed. It is important that we teach the benefits of technology and how to use it effectively to our students. When they learned how to use Google Drive, YouTube, and other similar programs, students take advantage of the resources and use it regularly. But if we don't, these amazing programs won't be used because they may seem intimidating at first. It is not only about using technology, but also about teaching technology. YouTube. YouTube provides many opportunities to represent, develop, and engage students in their education. Flip lessons. Teachers can use YouTube as a means to provide education with more opportunity to application in class. A flip lesson is when students watch a video for homework in preparation for their learning. By incorporating the flipped classroom model, teachers can then focus on reviewing and applying the information learned. For instance, it is a vocabulary lessons, and students are required to learn 10 new words. In order to be ready for their class, they watch a video that teaches these 10 words. The next day in class, students review and ask questions to ensure comprehension and understanding. Then the remaining time in class is dedicated to using the knowledge, which breaks this traditional structure of a class. By flipping a classroom, students have the opportunity to prepare questions for class, and teachers can observe engagement to ensure that all students are participating in the acquisition of learning and leaving no child behind. In addition, flipped classrooms provide ELL learners and other students with cognitive needs more opportunity to learn the material, as they can re-watch the video as many times as they feel necessary. By using Google Hangouts and YouTube, live lectures can be recorded and revisited. You can record your lecture live and broadcast it to YouTube to share with your class. This is really good for students who are unable to make it to class or need additional time to learn material, or even as a refresher for their final exam. In the past couple of months, the haze has made it difficult for some students with health issues to come to school. To accommodate this, during class, I made myself available both through Google Hangouts and Drive so that they wouldn't miss their learning. Another accommodation that YouTube provides is allows students to review concepts in preparation for assignments, tests, and exams. So I have slowly been developing the flipped classroom model for my English literature class, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I recommend it because it gives my students the opportunity to rewatch the videos as many times that they require. More so, it gives me additional time in class to work on understanding and using knowledge. It may seem daunting because it can be time-consuming when you first create the lesson, but subsequent terms you will save time. I recommend a couple of tips. If you do decide to become a flipped classroom teacher, make sure that there's no background noise, that you're in a silent room, that you have a transcript and that you're clear and concise, and try to keep it under 15 minutes. You can also create and edit videos on YouTube, combining different clips to create one video. By incorporating YouTube as a tool for assessment, learning will be differentiated, and you'll be providing another form of representation. In addition, you will be developing those creative and critical thinking skills that our students need to succeed in their future university and career choices. So as technology becomes ever more present in our daily lives, it is important that we review and develop with it. This way, we can ensure that all students have the opportunities they deserve, the right to education for all, through technology and inclusive education. To claim your certification of participation, please use this code OQUMED. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments. If I'm unable to answer your question right now due to time restraints, you can find me on Google Plus or email me at miss.a.skura@gmail.com. Thank you. Okay, so thank you, Julian Lee, for sharing a question with us. In Malaysia, he writes, in Malaysia, most learners are molded in linguistic logical thinking via summative assessment. So how is that fair for students who are visual kinesthetic that may not do well in summative but excel in formative? This is a great question. At my school, we do a lot of formative work, but our summative assessments are also geared towards visual and kinesthetic learning. So having live presentations or demonstrating their knowledge through images and so on and so forth. So I agree with you. I don't believe that this is fair. I think that as teachers, we need to make changes in our practice so that we can accommodate all our students. That's basically the basis of my presentation, is because of this question that you ask right now. Any other questions? I don't know if that answered your question. I hope it did. Currently, I know with SBMs, everything is geared towards one final exam at the end of the year, and that often causes that molding of linguistic and rote memory, which definitely not every student does well at. At my school, or SAMS, like Southern Australian Matriculate Program, we have that 70% summative assessment, and that's in-class summative assessment. So they have the opportunity to, say, write an essay. I have students that are creating documentaries as an assignment. So you can have other ways of expressing your ideas, expressing your knowledge that actually helps them succeed. So that's my presentation. If you have any more questions, please send me an email or message me on Google+. I'm more than happy to engage in a conversation. Cheers.